Hi, welcome. It's been a minute since I talked about the mental impact menopause often has on women, and it's a very important topic, so I want to revisit it in this video. There are over 100 possible symptoms that can accompany menopause, run you down physically, and leave you feeling pretty miserable and frustrated. But the shifts in hormones can also take a toll on your mental health, and I don't think that's focused on near enough, so let's talk about it now. Mental health is a broad category with many branches, and when hormone levels change in midlife, it can alter your mind, moods, and emotions in a long list of ways. I'm focusing on 5 that I think have the biggest impact on peri- and postmenopausal women, based on the large amount of ladies that I speak to day after day. And my own personal experiences, of course. I'm starting with anxiety because it is the #1 most commonly complained about mental health symptom in perimenopause and postmenopause, and it greatly affects quality of life. Shifting hormones, chronically elevated cortisol, lack of proper sleep, the stress from the long list of symptoms that often come with menopause, and a dozen other things can trigger or heighten anxiety in midlife, sometimes to a degree that's almost alarming. My anxiety has settled down a bit in postmenopause, but when I was in perimenopause, it was terrifying and debilitating. It manifested in several ways and I could not figure out where it was coming from. Anxiety can appear in different forms and everyone experiences it differently, so I'm going to quickly run through 4 manifestations of anxiety. The first is general fear, worry, and overthinking, even when you have no clue what you're concerned about. I used to be anxious about why I was always anxious. I worried about literally everything and nothing at all, and I would run things through my mind 100 times. It took up a lot of my life in perimenopause and really affected my daily living. I think in my case it was triggered by all the fear surrounding the symptoms and changes that hit me in my 40s, and then spiraled into ridiculousness. Thank heavens it's come down to functional levels in postmenopause. Next is panic disorder. This is truly horrible and I don't wish it on anyone. A panic attack can leave you convinced that you're dying and often sends women to the ER, and for good reason. It can cause palpitations, terror, sweating, chest pain, a fast heart rate, breathlessness or a feeling of choking, dizziness, and more. And the fear of a panic attack can cause women to avoid things, so it really can affect quality of life. Number 3 is OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder. This causes recurring thoughts and repetitive behaviors and can really affect quality of living. It might cause you to overwash your hands, check the door again and again, always choose the second product on the store shelf, do things in sets of 4, or run things through your mind over and over. And not engaging in the chosen behavior can lead to a great deal of anxiety. I deal with a bit of OCD myself, and I wish I didn't, because who has time for that? Phobias and irrational fears can also happen. Sudden fear of driving is a very common one among menopausal women, but it can be anything. I've become leery of canned food for some reason. I'm very concerned about safety if the can has even the tiniest dent in it, and I was never concerned about canned food before. I often realize I'm being a bit over the top, but I can't seem to help it. The second way menopause can affect mental health is lack of motivation. So many women express concern to me about not having any motivation to do much of anything. Even when they feel happy and content, they just can't find the will to get things done. I've experienced it myself, and it's not laziness, unwillingness, or even fatigue. It's like your brain can't convince your body to move and accomplish things. It's hard to explain, but if you experience it, it makes perfect sense. It only happens to me occasionally now, and I'm getting much better at forcing myself to get moving when it does, but it's a very hard menopause symptom to overcome. Next is depression. Loss of estrogen can affect the brain and gut and the serotonin that reside there, and can reduce your resiliency to cope with stress and all of the symptoms, fears, and frustrations that come with menopause. Depression can cause sadness, hopelessness, changes to appetite and sleep, lack of interest, and more, and can greatly affect quality of life. It can even become debilitating and affect your ability to function, requiring professional help. I'm very blessed that depression is not one of my issues, but I do have loved ones that struggle with it, and I know how terribly it can affect someone. I'm sending you so much love if you're struggling in this way. Number 4 is intolerance, lacking the ability to cope with things like irritating behavior, noise, crowds, drama, or an interruption to your schedule. It makes me think about the classic old lady waving the cane and yelling at the kids to get off her lawn. And now that I'm postmenopausal, I understand how she's feeling much more than I care to admit. Sometimes little things that never bothered me before annoy me so badly now that I can feel the irritation bubbling up and I have to leave. It's terrible. Low tolerance can cause many women to avoid situations and keep to themselves, to try and dodge the negative and bothersome people and experiences, so it can affect quality of life. I keep in pretty good control and don't let my annoyance show in public, at least not too much, so I'm not seen as a grouch or a misery. But sometimes keeping it together can be extremely hard. So avoiding certain situations as much as possible just makes my life a whole lot easier. I often wonder if most of the population is just super annoying, or if I'm the problem. It's definitely the world, right? Apathy can also happen. A lack of concern or interest about things. Total indifference. It can be an extension of depression, but it often occurs in the absence of other mood disruptions as well. Menopause is rough on many of us, and I know I've gone through periods of just being so completely drained from all of the symptoms and struggling to function day to day that I didn't have it in me to care about much. I'd go days responding whatever to pretty much everything, and I wasn't depressed. If anything, I was mentally and emotionally exhausted. Thank goodness this isn't something that occurs often for me. For those of you that experience this, what do you think triggers the apathy for you? There are other ways that menopause can affect your mental health and moods, but those are the ones that I hear about most often. If you experience other changes that you think should be added, share them in the comments. I'm sure others will relate. I wish health, happiness, and peace of body and mind for each of you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.